Here we go, guys. Here we go. We have Martine in the house.
Oh my gosh. Hello there, Martine. You are first. And our beloved KK. Good to see you. Jen and the birds. I know we have a DJ in there too.
Wow.
In the house.
So Martine says, I live in Massachusetts. I was on the phone with my sister and we both heard the boom. She's an hour north of me driving. It was a big one. People are really scared right now. I was talking again to a family member that heard the one in South Carolina, and that really freaked them out.
Yeah, that's quite a boom. And they say, I don't know how they know, but they say, oh, this one's, 3 feet. How do they know? Oh my goodness, we have a Jay in the house and a Ron in the house. Good to see you, Boston. And the boom was loud as F and shook the house. Oh my gosh. Hope you're okay. How do you have animals? What did your animals think about it, if you have any?
Good to see you, Shelley. And welcome, Jay. Great to have you. It's just wild times. We shared.
I wonder if Robbie heard it. Oh,
we shared a video that we caught in our own backyard, which showed what seemed to us to be a drone, or you could say a UAP of some sort, that landed in the farm in a cow field.
How appropriate.
Yeah, right behind us, right attached to it.
Oh
They have 150 plus acres, and cows and donkeys and goats and sheep and everything. And we just watched the thing slowly lower and land to the ground. Yeah, it was crazy. The dog was under the bed for half an hour. That can do that. That can absolutely do that. So, this is from the Telegraph here. Let's see, I think we got the volume all the way up.
Whoa! Something just blew up! Run! Go!
Was that looking after Matt? Because she said something blew up before it blew up.
Something just blew up! Run! Go!
That's interesting. As somebody says, something just blew up, and then you hear a close boom. We're going to look at this a lot closer, but I also want to point out to everybody, there's a lot of fireball sightings, and a lot of things that they say are meteors. And I think, some are, but others might not be meteors. Others might literally be ships. Two brothers arriving home in Los Angeles around 10:37 p.m. spotted and filmed mysterious glowing objects streaking across the sky. The phenomenon moved at surprising speed, leaving a colorful trail, vanished completely into the darkness. Shortly after, the recording was interrupted, and it was published on Reddit. And this is another showing that same object. There's just a lot of craziness going on.
I know. We need to get better at not saying what it is and just say, wow, look at that rock flying through the sky. No, that's not a ship. We don't have a clue what it could possibly be. And why are there so many lately? Yeah, this just weird times, I guess.
Yeah, the AI algorithm doesn't like it when you actually try to label something, unless it's just more generic. Maybe that's a demon. Yeah, right. Could be a demon up there. Again, there's a lot of craziness, but this is the apocalypse. And if we thought we had seen the apocalypse already, or most of it, no, it's only getting started. This is only getting started. We have Apophis, right? Apophis is coming to visit us in 2029. It's coming very close. Now, they call it a rock, an asteroid. Well, when we remote view it, we don't see that. We see a ship. That's just what we see. Of course, if you didn't want humanity to know that it's really a ship coming on a long-term mission from very, very far away, you would just say, hey, it's an asteroid. It's a rock. That's all.
Just that's all. That's all. Just use our scientific terms for what we use and do not go outside that box.
No, they don't like you jumping ahead of disclosure. Trail disclosure, or, keep abreast of it as it comes out. But don't jump ahead no matter what you do. So, yeah, Apophis. This is a fascinating one too, because it's big. It's not a little one. Asteroid 99942, Apophis. Well, I guess if you turn those nines upside down, they look like sixes. 4 and 2 makes another 6. Apophis is the god of chaos. Will make a terrifying close flyby of Earth on Friday the 13th, April 2029. Yeah, that's, basically that's only 2 years and 11 months. That'll be here before you finish blinking your eye. It's a 340-meter asteroid. 340-meter asteroid. About the size of 3 football fields or the height of the Eiffel Tower. It's going to pass closer to Earth than many of the satellites that circle Earth. One wrong trajectory could level cities. NASA and the ESA say there's 0 chance of impact. At about 31,600 kilometers above Earth, Apophis will race across the sky. At roughly 7.4 kilometers per second, from parts of Europe, Africa, and Western Asia, it will appear as a bright moving star visible to the naked eye. Does anybody get the impression of wormwood from the Bible? Yeah, it's interesting because wormwood is very useful for parasites, and definitely Earth has been infected by parasites. Through binoculars or a small telescope, observers will be able to watch it drift across the sky for several hours. Boy, that's going to be interesting. Scientists are treating the event as a rare natural experiment. NASA's OSIRIS APEX mission and the ESA's Ramses mission. Wow, why did they label them after, everything Egyptian, by the way? Is it Egyptian, or are we really talking seriously about Sirius? They're going to study how Earth's gravity affects the asteroid's orbit, rotation, and surface. Researchers will look for shifts in spin, surface movement, and possible seismic activity triggered by the close pass. Ooh. Early observations in 2004 briefly raised fears of a potential impact, but years of radar tracking and orbital analysis eliminated the risks. The 2029 encounter will instead become one of the closest asteroid flybys ever observed by modern science. So on Friday the 13th, 2029, the so-called God of Chaos will rush past Earth. No disaster, no impact. Just a rare cosmic event, visible from the ground, studied by spacecraft. Hopefully it just passes on by and doesn't change course.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. Look at that. A lot of things going on. Do you think we're being told the truth, about anything? Have we ever been told the truth about anything? I think we're in kind of a mess right now, and I think everything's just about to be revealed on a very, very large scale. And I definitely have a very bad feeling about these booms. They're too big. It's too coincidental. It's a lot. And if you think about our government and our world controllers, would they tell us? Would they tell us something if they knew something?
Oh, no. I don't think they would. So, yeah, Apophis, right? 340 meters. Listen now, this is what we heard in South Carolina. Because remember, this was just like a couple days ago.
Caused it. No reports of injuries or damage. Mysterious sonic boom in South Carolina. The community around Columbia and nearby counties shaken and startled from the noise. The U.S. Geological Survey confirming this was not an earthquake, but no word yet on what caused it. No reports of injuries or damage. Mysterious sonic boom.
So here you go. This one was shocking, and a lot of people that we know have had this They experienced it themselves. They heard it themselves. And now, we have the Boston area right here. Let's put this one on. That sounds like a cannon to me. Doesn't that sound like a cannon to you? Welcome, Shelley, as an evolutionary manifester. Thank you so much for all your support and your love.
Yes, thank you, Shelley. Welcome. Good to see you.
Sin Havoc says, directed energy weapon in plain sight. It could be. Listen to this one. This is inside.
What the hell is that?
You couldn't hear that one as well, but she sure did, and she went to check out the garage. This was big.
It's something, isn't it? Now, we've been getting reports, as we've been talking about, from all across the state from people who say they heard this boom. Dr. John Ebel from the Western Observatory says that he agrees that he believes that this was a meteor breaking through the lower part of the atmosphere. He says it's not unusual for space rocks to make it through the atmosphere, but they usually burn up. This meteor still made it through, which is why so many of us heard it.
When we heard that boom, we thought, you know what, we better get out of the house right now.
This was probably a piece of space rock, maybe something like this. If it's like half a mile across, it would be like the rock that wiped out the dinosaurs about 65 million years ago. So those things happen too.
Oh boy.
Those things happen too.
You can hear that, oh boy, from me there. Most of the tools at the Western Observatory that monitor earthquakes didn't pick up anything related to this, but one of their instruments did pick up the loud boom sound that we heard. Now, Dr. Ebel also said that it's not out of the realm of possibility that we could see the meteor end up somewhere on the ground in Massachusetts, but as David said, it's more likely that it will be somewhere out in the ocean.
Pretty wild stuff.
Boom! That's what many across our region heard this afternoon. But what was it? We've been speaking with those of you who heard the sound, and now we're trying to get some answers. Good evening, and thanks for joining us at 6 o'clock. I'm John Perikin for...
Look at that. I mean, all across, basically all of Rhode Island and right over our Mama Jan and our Robbie and many of you guys.
Yeah, a lot of folks over there heard it, and it was, disturbing for some very close family members that we have, and they're still kind of, a little bit rattled about how loud this was. I know someone in there mentioned, is it a Bezos rocket? I really don't think so. I don't think it's that. I think it's something, I wish I could say it is just a rocket, because that would actually make me feel better. But I don't think it was a rocket, and I think there could be more of these to come. And that's the part that bothers me about this whole thing, is what are we not being told?
Yes, Civil Defense Bunker says, remember the movie Armageddon and Deep Impact? Very well. These are debris fields. Yeah, these are little ones coming ahead. Yeah, I think that there's some of that definitely in play. Without a doubt. 3.8, right? That's what this is showing. That it caused that much shaking. As you can see, the shaking reported. And reports even over in Hartford and way up in Concord. Very curious, to say the least. Remember, we had the explosion. This was Longview. That death toll is now officially 11. This was, again, just another one of those... random explosions. This was the Nippon Dynawave packaging plant in Oregon, and they had missing bodies, but now they have identified and discovered, yes, the death toll was 11. We send our prayers and positive energy to the family. It's going to be, there's just been so much going on. we were talking, somebody mentioned Jeff Bezos and rockets. Well, here you go. We were talking about this. This was one of the main topics of a previous live. Now, could there possibly be some sort of connection between a 3-foot across asteroid that, meteor that gives us the loud bang we just heard up in Massachusetts? Maybe there was another one in South Carolina, but I don't think one hit the rocket, but could it still be connected in some way?
Right, exactly, and Peter's saying for every reaction there is an equal and opposite reaction. Yeah, as we travel through the universe at super fast speeds, I guess we're bound to bump into something, right? Things are going to happen, or is there something more going on? And I think if they have this AI and they were to run certain questions or certain tests, if there was something on its way that was really bad, how would humanity react? And I don't think humanity would react very good if we knew it was something bigger. So to me, I just don't put it past them to keep something very large hush hush. I just don't. It's bothersome. That's all I gotta say, really. It's very bothersome.
Yeah, the nature of this and what Cindy's picking up is it does feel like we're beginning to get into something, and that means that whatever it is more than likely going to escalate. So we should be prepared for the unexpected. You could do your prepping as best as you can, but if a rock lands on your head, it just kind of lands on your head. That's one of those things that's, a quote unquote act of God or karma or what have you. But at the same time, there is a lot of other things going on. One thing that's happening, I'll read you this article because this is really a good sign. The Seminole Nation of Oklahoma has become the first known indigenous nation in the U.S. to officially block data center development on its land, voting unanimously in March to place a moratorium on hyperscale data centers and generative AI infrastructure. Recently, a tech company approached tribal leaders with the proposal to build a data center on Seminole land. Leaders and community members raised concerns over massive water and electricity demands these facilities require, along with long-term risks to the ecosystems and water supplies. The tribal elders chose to ban construction on data centers, maintain environmental protection and sovereignty, arguing that once resources like water are depleted or damaged, the impacts can be irreversible. So this is a landmark. This is great. Good for the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma.
Yes. So what do we think about that?
I think it's great. Now, again, Seminoles come from Florida, but here you have Oklahomas where so many different indigenous people were put. In fact, like when I go down my father's side, his I think it was his great-grandmother was born on an Indian reservation in Oklahoma. By the way, and Cindy's dad too was indigenous and went through all those things, associated with the Trail of Tears and uprooting people from their homes and just sending them elsewhere as your land is taken from you. Well, enough organizations have been doing that. Again, we talk about the Weefers and everything they have planned, and people have caught on. They really have caught on. And this says, Florida, who says you need a politician just because big tech bank fraud Byron is bought and paid for by the Silicon family, does not mean we need to allow those noisy, resource-sucking digital surveillance buildings in our state. And here you see locals beat down a data center, Andover Township. This is in Florida. There's been one after another. So, it's working. Keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. That's the message with the data centers.
Yes, absolutely. Keep going because what are the data centers anyway? Are they really just data centers, or are they just throwing up buildings to collect us all when it comes time, and just buildings not just to collect us but to control us. So I think these data centers have multiple, multifaceted things about them, multifaceted purposes about them, and also with all the technology that's in them. Say if they did have to control a very large group of people, wouldn't it be easy to just make people swallow some pill, and then all the data that's around you is going to kind of force you to behave this way or behave that way and get along here and get along there. I don't like those data centers at all, and no one that I know, unless you're getting a lot of money for letting them go up in your area and you get to leave the country or buy your own island. I don't know too many people who want them, really. I think the cell phones, computers work just fine. I mean, I'm happy. I don't need any more. I don't need any faster speeds. I don't want faster speeds. I don't want any more technology. Who does?
The technology's gotten worse every year that
gotten
goes
way
by.
worse.
It's not getting better. It's getting worse. But yeah, we're paying more for it. Please do like, share, subscribe. You're invited to join us on the memberships and on Patreon as well. And again, thank all you guys for your support. And then we have all the weather. The record rain that we see all over the place. This is in the Yucatan, Mexico, 6 inches plus in less than 24 hours. Can you say mud flood? It's so clear where we are at this point in time and what's happening, because it really has happened in the past before. Apparently many times. Looking at this one, flooding concerns grow over in Montana as well. It's just record extreme weather event, one after another. And then, I guess we can't categorize meteors as a weather event, can we? No. But at the same time, we could see there's trends. So, massive rainfall going on up there in Montana as well. It's just, you either have nothing or you have too much that is impossible to handle. While we are talking about the weather, let's just take a peek at the earthquakes and see if anything has popped up. Oh, there you go. There's that explosion. Something. Question mark. Another event. Sonic boom. Eastern Massachusetts. Yeah, this is unusual. These times are unusual. Because you see another one of them over here. As far as those diamonds are booms, guys, right? Look at this. This is South Carolina, that boom. And down here you have an accidental explosion, the Blue Origin one. You don't usually see this. Now, there's an awful lot of explosions going on. I would guess mining related. Yeah, quarry blast is what they're saying. It also always gives you a little handy excuse too. And then we had the one up in Oregon too. Explosion. Feels a little odd, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, what really is going on? And what I have noticed is people talking about very, very vivid dreams. And I know the Schumann has been doing things, but when people have very vivid dreams, meaningful dreams, dreams that are impactful, dreams that really mean something in your life, dreams that give you answers, dreams that give you closure, there is something going on with Earth and her atmosphere that's different, something that's reaching into our souls, into our minds, into our energy fields, and helping us process things. And I think it's very important that we process a lot of emotions, and I think that's tied into what's going on too. Not exactly sure right now, that hasn't hit me yet, but I think it's significant that I'm hearing from so many people these very vivid dreams that they're having, and even myself, dreams that are bringing me closure of some kind, dreams that are bringing me relief, dreams that are just bringing me information that I really, really needed, to tie up loose ends. I mean, what does that all mean when so many people are having these dreams?
I didn't notice this before, just how many in the last week we've had. As far as I knew there were certain things like these factories and stuff that have gone up. But there's a lot of other explosions that are not being really, I haven't seen info on them. This one is up close to Olympus, Washington, of magnitude 1.5. We talked about these two, a 2.5 and a 2.0. I don't know what this was about. 1.9 explosion. This is Harbor, Oregon area. I've watched and looked at the USGS just about every single day for the last 9 years. And you'll see quarry blasts and explosions, but they're rare and they're always in the same spots. Some of these are not the same spots. So, I mean, are we talking, are these really other rocks coming in, Here's another one, Kingston, Nevada. Where that is, again, that could be military activity too. Could be mining. There's a lot of mining in Nevada. We've been all through that area. But there's other places too. Like we were talking about Oklahoma. I haven't noticed that much explosive activity. They're calling them all quarry blasts over here. In Oklahoma, it just seems like an odd amount. More than typical, let's just say. And then, of course, South Carolina, Boston, and Florida. That's really kind of unusual. Any other countries that I'm seeing? I don't know if they keep track in other countries. They probably do not. But anyway, it is curious to say the least. If we look at the largest quakes we have going on, 5.6 is the biggie. And this is down in the Caribbean by Barbados, 35 kilometers deep. 5.0 in Papua New Guinea, and that's really it. So not a lot. There's not a lot out there in regards to that right now. Nothing too unusual. I would say again, it's the explosive events that have been very curious.
Yeah, definitely very, very curious. Yes.
Data center construction causes severe flooding in Mason County. West Virginia here. Residents to be reimbursed for damages. West Virginia. A lot of good friends over in that area as well. Look at that flooding. This is due to that data center right over there, around yonder. Yeah. That looks like a nuclear power plant stack. Well, the history of Earth is not what we have been told. This is Michael Salla saying that, you remember anti-gravity researcher Amy Eskridge? Well, he's saying that she didn't die in 2022. Next week, he's going to publicly release details that Amy faked her death and is now in contact with a reliable source that I've known for years, which shared stunning info about her current anti-gravity research on a secret research facility. He's going to share more details on his webinar today, which I think was $55, which is a little expensive. I don't know. I guess it's relative. But, again, is it just for business? That's up for each person to know. There's a lot more that meets the eye, that's for sure. I think he's, again, there's a lot of people doing disclosure and trying to get people used to certain ideas from their own ways and points of doing things. I think it would be wonderful if she is alive, because actually the same kind of feeling has come through, wondering if some of these scientists were literally abducted by governmental officials to be working on some sort of secret project somewhere. That's something that has felt like a possibility.
It has felt very weird. Some of them I can clearly see they're in a position where they don't want to be, and then others feel it just feels really weird, like there's nothing there, and that's very curious. So
yeah, absolutely. So we shall see. Is this a case of Three-body problem? Is it like, did they even make the whole series three-body problem just to let us know something so when it hits us we won't be, so thrown for a loop?
Yeah, and then every single one, and these scientists have been going missing for years, so it's not like this just happened. So this has been something that has been ongoing. And isn't it weird how all of them left their keys, left their phone, left everything, just up and disappeared? Isn't that strange? No body, no nothing. I don't know.
Yeah, Jen, I think I do have an entry up here about the missing Malaysian plane too. The American White House dropped the clearest clip. Here you go. There's another very clear clip, and nobody's paying attention. Well, they paid attention to the booms. And if somehow people start to connect booms with UFO disclosure with our rockets blowing up on the launching pad, then maybe some of those little wheels in the head will get going.
Indeed.
Yeah. Yes. In my mind, they're absolutely all connected. I don't know how we couldn't think that they would not be connected. Of course it's connected.
Yeah. Well, with the world the way it is, though, with everything and its policies and procedure and how everything has to be outlined and T's crossed, I's dotted, and you just have to be appropriate with every little detail. I mean, I think that's the only reason why they created science, is just to make sure everyone stays in this particular box and you don't draw too many conclusions. Because what are conclusions? It's people who think outside that scientific box, and they do not like people like that. And in fact, I think people who are free thinkers are targeted in so many different ways. Those who can think outside the box, who regularly think outside the box, those who understand all the major, controlling mechanisms that there are out there from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed. If you know what they are and you dodge them, you're different and you're a problem.
Yeah, and I do think there is something with targeted individuals. We feel that we have been for a long time, and we've shared with you guys evidence of our own interactions throughout the years, and we have dozens and dozens of pieces of evidence. UAPs are off the charts right now in southern Jersey. Yeah, if you're anywhere, even beyond southern Jersey, just look up. You're probably going to see something that's unusual. Now, I've always noticed that to be the case. It seems like no matter where we go, if we get ourselves a nice, relatively clear, dark sky, we're going to see something that night. We just will plop back and just, talk to each other with our eyes on the sky, and invariably there's something curious that ends up showing up.
We don't go outside here as much. Mostly in the desert, it was cool because there was a clear sky and there was very little light pollution. We had a campfire and there was not nearly as many bugs. Maybe rattlesnakes, sidewinders, and tarantulas, but not nearly as many biting bugs, because you can see tarantulas and stuff like that. The bugs, we have these no-see-ums, and if you go outside here, well, you just get bitten up at nighttime. So, and then there's always half the time there's a burn ban. And I found out recently, if you burn your stuff right before growing season, it really cuts way back on ticks. And isn't it strange how so many places were too dry to even have a burning season? It was very difficult through this tick season. A lot of problems for so many people, and it's just so very odd. But here, in the desert, it was guaranteed every single night. We would go out, we would see them come in one portal, go into another portal, and it was just like, a conveyor belt. It was every night. It was guaranteed. Here, I don't know so much, because like I said, we get bitten up by bugs, and there's more light pollution, and a lot of times they're spraying, so you can't see the sky anyway. But we did get that one that we posted on film, and it was really close to our house. It was very, very strange, and you can see on that video too how much disruption came onto the screen as it came down. It was crazy.
And then we have scientists saying this is the optimal robot body because it could go anywhere, 20 legs. You know, I saw more news talking about robots being deployed, like those Boston Dynamic dogs. Those things are so creepy. Maybe it's just because they were used in more than one science fiction movie to exterminate humans in those science fiction movies. Maybe that sticks with you, and you can't help but think that it's creepy. So yeah, this would be the optimal way. 20 legs gives it a 360-degree view, can move anywhere, any direction, anytime. There you go. I mean, you'll probably see something like this with cameras on every appendage, just filming everything that we all do, trying to keep us all in line, you know?
Well, whatever you do, do not keep a fresh bucket of like sandy oil or, you know, water. I'm sure you wouldn't want to sprinkle it with sand or water or anything like that. I mean, that would just be devastating to a robot, you know, very super fine dust and sand. I don't know. Just whatever you do, don't keep a fresh bucket of that laying around.
How about a bucket of paint? You know, that would just kind of...
Oh, yeah, that would...
might make it...
Don't put any paint on it.
Might have a hard time with the optics. Yeah. So this is Ted Nugent. Cancer is $1 billion industry. Big food is poisoning our kids to death. We totally agree. Stop feeding your family at Dairy Queen, McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Burger King. It's pure chemical warfare. We completely agree. Yeah, and, you know, while I think that this administration is more than screwing up over in the Middle East in certain ways, they have been the only one to ever do anything about slowing the roll of the poisoning of everybody in the USA. Yeah, you know, but again, we could do way better. And, you know, one right doesn't excuse 20 wrongs.
No, it doesn't. And you know, I mean, it's been how many years have they been cranking out poison to our children and us, and you know, and preying on people who are so poor they cannot afford good food? And how long have they been preying on moms and dads who have to work double jobs just to keep going? And how can they, you know, afford to get the good food and take the time to cook when they're exhausted? So you go out, you go to Mickey D's because the kids love it because of all the advertisements, and hey, it's easy to get the kids I mean, they're predators. They have been preying on people for so long, and absolutely no one did anything. No one did anything to help anyone. I mean, it's so hard for families to get good food. Heck, it's hard for us to get really good food, afford food. I mean, there's nights where we do beans and rice because we're just not going to do the other stuff that's going to poison us, and that's no fun.
Yeah, it's all coming out now. Zeno says, and get moving, get your body moving. She dances, and that's awesome. You know, and that's an expression too of the soul. So that's a beautiful thing. Yeah, definitely. We take exercise very seriously. And, you know, when we're doing other things like doing research and stuff, I did an hour on the bike while doing research. You know, this is just how you kill two birds with one stone, you know, and so you're benefiting yourself in more than one way. RFK Jr., within 5 years, satellites belonging to that Gil Bates character will be able to look at every square inch of the planet 24 hours a day. They're putting in, you know, the FIVE and also the 6 to harvest our data, control our behavior, perhaps even control our minds, if they're able to. Digital currency will allow them to punish us from a distance and cut off our food supply. It will make you a slave. Yeah. Absolutely. So you got to ask, how can he be so far above the law? There are so many people calling for the arrest of that individual. Why hasn't it happened?
Why, double, triple, why? You know,
and they just dropped
those,
us like 20 people.
and they just dropped us. Of course they did. So, you guys, again, I just have to say it again. Thank you so much for sticking with us, because we are just, it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle. And you guys have been here struggling with us, and thank you. So for all the thumbs up, all the support, we really appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. We all know. We all have stories of people we know that have made the decisions, the ones that they wanted to have, made for you, or did make for you in some ways, and the outcomes. You could never tell us otherwise. But how could he literally be so above the law? And see if they drop us from 65 people down, because we always drew so many more people than we do now. But the reality is we still may be drawing that many people. It's just that, they try to do their best to hide you. And then they also, I think, none of the numbers are accurate. I don't think there's really anything in history that's accurate. When you look to this, the lizard people, the truth about reptilians, well, it isn't just David Icke. And when you look at it, too, these stories are going way back in myths, thousands of years. They've been passed on for generation to generation to generation. And what we have really right now is a lot of confused people that are recognizing that, everything we've been told is, it's just for public consumption to keep people under control. But it's not the way things are.
No, it's not. It's the world that we've been shown is so different, and I think a lot of people, after that movie comes out, I think there's going to be an awakening like we have never seen before. I also feel that there's frequencies, subliminal messages in that movie that it'll make itself known through the population. So it'll be really curious to see how things change.
Yeah, and we are going to get a clearer disclosure. Again, their hands being forced because the ships are in the sky and they're showing themselves. So they have no choice. They just want to stay ahead as much as they can of the narrative. So they were going to have to disclose. There are beings inside the earth that live in the earth's crust, that have advanced civilizations, and they are more technically advanced than we are who are living on the surface. And then there's also beings, again, living in the oceans as well. There's more than one group here. The part of the reason why everything is so confused is it isn't one side against another side. It's like many different sides competing with each other while trying to keep the kids in the dark, and we are the kids.
Yeah, that's very important to keep us in the dark.
Yeah, it's kind of like the parents know, the aunt, the uncle know, the godparents know, but the kids don't know what's going on. And that's been the way it is here on Earth. There are different factions that literally represent and are controlled by different beings. If you look closely at the Vatican, it's a reptilian enclave, completely. And, this right here showed up in Japan. This is a 1,000-plus-year-old statue. If I remember right, I think 4,000 years old. It shows a reptilian, clearly a reptilian being, wearing clothes, and some sort of breastplate or armor.
Yeah, I mean, what do we think about that?
So then it becomes, okay, this is the fun part. Who does each faction represent? Because you could say, again, you have this force that's out there trying to spread Christianity, but you got to recognize that Christianity's been hijacked. It's been hijacked and utilized as a control system. I do think that the original messenger, whether you call him Jesus or Yeshua, or the teacher of righteousness of the Essenes, I think that he was just, obviously, it was all about exposing the control grid, which was just like it is today. either 2,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, might not even been that long.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's just a whole another story, but there was a time and a point where, people just didn't tolerate it.
No, so I think what you have going on is you have this faction that is being controlled by reptilians. But wait, there's more than one group of reptilians. That's the thing. We do have these Naga type beings that are shown to be, kind of like you have to be cautious with them, but they're basically towards the benevolent side in the Hindu myths. They're certainly wise, but you have to approach with caution. Then you have the Draco, which have an empire, perhaps in this vibrational field that we find ourselves living in. It may very well be the most dominant empire in our universe, or at least in our galaxy. Again, when you look to Draco, it's Alpha Draconis. And, we look over towards the Orion area in the sky. And there are some very, very, powerful towards the dark side energies, like Algol, the star. It's a demon star. Why? Because, this is part of the sector where the Draco empire is centered and controlling. But you also have other beings out there, like those beings that we call the Anunnaki, with a broad term that just means the beings that come from the sky down to earth again. And it's not only Zecharia Sitchin that's ever translated anything like that, because you'll get people that just feel like, well, we could debunk Sitchin, don't you know he's a Freemason, again. But the reality is, there's 80% of the Sumerian scrolls haven't even been translated yet. And yet there's still new ones being translated every day and giving us a little more clearer picture. That picture is, absolutely. This planet's been fought over by different groups at war with each other. This planet was literally destroyed in a war of the beings that we would basically term Anunnaki. And it was salvaged by the cosmic superconsciousness, or you might want to call it the Galactic Federation, and turned into a smaller planet closer towards the sun that we know as Earth.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just a story that's been ongoing for eons.
It is, and people are recognizing it. That this is really the hidden history that they don't want us understanding. Now, the reptilians that live in the earth, they don't like having too many humans, on the surface. There's less reptilians in the earth than there are humans on the earth. We are a species that can propagate pretty quickly and produce a lot. And the reason for that is because it's been programmed into our bodies, again, by the Anunnaki. So, those beings that we know from the stories like Enki, who is known as Ea, who is termed a son of Anu, as is his brother Enlil. Again, they are like half-brothers in reality. And the thing you have to realize, too, when we talk Anunnaki, you're really talking about all sorts of different species. Way more than just one species. You have, again, humanoid beings, you have reptilian beings, you have avian beings, you have insectoid beings, again, all different types interacting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, a lot of this stuff is just kind of free for all. It's open forum now, but how many people really believe it? I think we are working on a breakthrough and getting a lot more detailed information as far as who's who and the factions and how those factions are split up through our political system, because there is a method here. There is something going on that we are tapping into right now, trying to bring more light to the whole situation. Because if we knew exactly who was who and how it is cut up and what can we do best to push back against this energy, then I mean that would be so helpful, because I hate things, not being able to do things. Like, yeah, we have all the information, but what can you do with it? You know, you just sort of sit like a lump on a log with all this information, and how does that help? And thank you, running the gauntlet. We appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we are sorting through different channeled information that we've gotten today and yesterday, and it took us a little while to get that video up to share on membership and Patreon with you guys that we took about the ship that actually landed overnight last Sunday night into Monday morning in the cow field by us. But yeah, there's a lot of info coming through and getting a much clearer picture of exactly kind of what's going on. And as we know more and really understand more, we'll share it. But I think when you're talking, what is the population crisis? I think the reptilians are the ones that want to see there be less humans on Earth. I think when you talk about the Anunnaki right now, they're not as directly involved in things as they had been in the past, and neither really is the Draconian Empire. What we have on Earth right now is really more about the beings that have been here for a long time, and they want a certain structure, because they fear humans awakening. We already outnumber the reptilians that live on the planet with us vastly, and so as we awaken and become wiser and more understanding, we become far more dangerous to them. So they are the ones that desperately want to see our population drop quickly.
Unfortunately, they've made so many conveniences for humans that it wouldn't really take much, though. I mean, yeah, we could rise up, but how fast could they smash us back down, because we're not healthy and they've been feeding us poison for so long, and these medicines that we take just make us sluggish and sloth-like, and they're poisonous, and so it's really hard. I mean, it's really hard to come together when everyone has to work, everyone has something to do. So yeah, we outnumber them, but the problem is we need to be stronger. We need to take better care of our bodies. We need to take better care of our minds. We need to become more self-sufficient, and we're just not there. The masses are just not there. It's just kind of us, and we're speckled, very thin, very thin. So if it's just us, I mean, it's really hard to, rise up, just us.
Yeah, so remember, those reptilians, they have the ability to shapeshift. So, what really is the truth about certain characters that seem to be above the law? Maybe they're not what they appear to be. That's just the simple truth. Maybe that's why they're above the law, because they're not what they appear to be. There's something entirely different. And so, taking control of one of those and literally trying to bring it to justice, that could literally bring on a war of the worlds.
Yeah, it's just like, what does that look like realistically?
It could happen if humans had the guts to actually do it. Here you have the Sumerian god Enki. Well, really, it's the Anunnaki. But still, when we say that, who was Enki? We're going to do a whole live on that subject. But suffice it to say, the clue is in the water. Absolutely, the clue is in the water. Enki, again, is credited with giving humans more genetic material to work with than Enlil wanted. But at the same time, 90% of our DNA has been turned off. So he didn't leave us with much. He really didn't leave us with much. What we have here is we are in the middle of these different warring factions. And none of them are white hats. None of them are good guys. The good guys reside up on the higher densities, like fifth density. When you look at the Galactic Federation, the bulk of it is really up there on fifth density and even higher. So they are truly light beings, plasma beings. not necessarily physical like us, although there are some that are also force density that can take form at times.
Yeah, indeed.
So it is quite an interesting thing we have going on. Enki has been thought of as being the devil, and again shown as a human, this a little bit of a pointy hat, but always around water. God of the waters. You have Anu, and then you had Enlil, Enki, and Ninhursag. Ninhursag and Enki worked together on the genetic programs. Literally were geneticists programming different forms of life. Interesting, because there are sources that say that the reptilians that live inside our planet were literally created by the Enki and Ninhursag and others that came here. And who really are these beings that we might equate with Nibiru? They're, from the info that we got, they're kind of a warrior class of Pleiadian has been used to describe them. Now again, Pleiades were populated by Lyrans, leaving the great galactic war between Lyra and Draco. And with planets getting destroyed, they had to find new planets to use that were suitable. And so many Lyrans left that area and went to the Pleiades. And I still wonder if technically if we're not thought of as being in part of the Pleiades ourselves. I'll have to see if we could get that information from the guides more.
I think we can.
Well, that would be awesome. So when they show them all looking the same, they're really not necessarily exactly the same species. Enlil and Enki, again, are thought to be sons of Anu, but not necessarily the same mother. Well, that gets into that whole Zeus thing and, all the hybrids everywhere. Yes, it is all part of the same story. And why would they be so fascinated with creating genetic hybrids? Well, yeah, they're looking for the perfect workers to work the planets that are conquered by, these beings, these groups. It is said that the Draco, as they went on conquering world after world, instead of just annihilating everybody, and then what are they going to do about extracting the resources, the gold, all the different minerals, all the different, precious commodities on these particular worlds? Who's going to work it? So they found it was much better to enslave people. And, the Draco, part of that enslavement program was developing an AI system that could help them with probabilities and help them with the problem of enslaving minds of all these different species that were being conquered. They would bribe, and it worked, certain people inside different civilizations to open up doors for them and allow them in through the back door, so to speak, and then to go ahead and subject the people of the planet to the Draco will and the Draco system after the fact, and they paid them handsomely. That's the same system that's in place here right now. But they also found that with the AI, they could create all sorts of nanotech and the ability to watch everything that happens on a planet when they're not even there anymore, and perhaps even control people, like, distantly if they had to, through the technology, literally turning the entities into biological automatons that they could manipulate.
Yeah, kind of like what's going on now.
We're in that same process right now. So, again, none of these that we're talking about, the Draco, are not full of love and light. They're totally in service to themselves. They are perhaps the ultimate warrior species. What you have is these beings have aligned themselves with the Draco, but they're not necessarily part of the Draco, but they've aligned themselves with the Draco, so they don't necessarily come in conflict with the Draco. So they look more towards solutions, arbitration, coming to agreements, And this is part of what's been going on now for more than thousands of years.
Yeah, is it coming to a conclusion?
Well, I mean, could it be coming to a conclusion, here on Earth? So again, Enki doesn't have to be the same species as Enlil in total. I mean, that's a wide umbrella. And again, insectoid humanoids, you have many of them too. We have the mantid people, we have the ant people. There are spider beings. Humans had a war against spider beings right here in the past, and it was a brutal thing.
Yeah, it's that's been a really yucky thing. That's just kind of disgusting. Some people really don't like spiders. Some people really, really cannot stand spiders. And there's a reason for that. There's an innate DNA type of energy repulsion because there was a huge war between spider beings and humans. I know it sounds absolutely nutty and crazy, but this was a thing. And to this day, your repulsion from spiders is, it's in the DNA.
Yeah, and these spider beings were like 4 to 5 feet. They were like human size. So how did that war end? It ended when the spider beings and the humans came to an agreement. The spider beings were to go up in frequency. They were the ones that went up a little bit, and they left our range, our frequencies, so that we don't see them anymore. They're non-physical to us most of the time. But they can't communicate with us, and we've literally had one communicate this to us. And this was when Cindy was in Deep Channel. The spider being popped in, and it was literally in the same room with us, but we couldn't see it. But it communicated to tell us that history that did exist. And this is often what happens is when there's these conflicts, sometimes beings will move to a higher dimension. And this is also really our biggest hope, I think, at this point in time, is to move to a higher dimension where there's no longer the conflict.
Well, during the conflict, it was known that both spiders and humans would extinct each other. And the spider beings, actually being the smarter, moved to another dimension. So now we can coexist to a degree. However, I still see many people having... the spiders do like to attach and take energy, so that is a bit of a problem.
Yeah, and other beings do that too. So yeah, it is a very tangled web out there, guys. Really a tangled web. To throw all this even further into the mix, I will share that we got that clearly Apophis is a Draco ship. The Draco really haven't done much with us directly. The Draconian Empire has kind of been hands off. Earth, this is more the official stance. Is not, they're not really looking to necessarily do anything with us at this point in time. But the reptilians that are here on the planet sharing space with us, that's the ones that have infiltrated us, appearing to be human. When in many cases the ones that we see, they're not human. There might have been an original of that particular human, but it gets replaced. Think Invasion of the Body Snatchers, right? And then think about how many politicians looked one way and now they don't look anything like that. How many Hollywood stars looked away, now they don't look anything like that. Well, again, these reptilians that are on the earth now were literally created again by Enki and his crew there as another worker species. They don't number as many as we do, but they do have more technology, and they have a far clearer understanding of the situation than we do. And that's part of what gives them the upper hand, is that we're in the dark about the whole situation. But they understand the whole situation very clearly. And if they've watched humans, go up to a very high number again on the planet, and then you top that off with humans' abilities that were turned off for many generations coming back online and potentially higher than ever, well, that can make them very, very panicky.
Well, I mean, I look at it like this. They just make sure they keep humans used to conveniences, used to air conditioning, used to heat, used to all the things. So if that rug were to get pulled, it would significantly cripple the amount of humans and therefore putting them back in charge. So I think that's the fault. Oh, the whole while is we're in our conveniences, and the human body can adapt and adjust. Like if we were to lose power and stuff, we can adapt and adjust, but a lot of people out there need power. They need the heat, they need the cool, because they're not well, they're not strong enough to go without it. So I think we're kind of crippled, as a species. I know there's a lot of us, there's a lot more of us than there is them, but if they just turn lights out, what do we think is going to happen? I'm sorry, it's probably not a popular answer, but it's true.
Yeah, Susan's right. We are coming out of the dark. We're getting more and more understanding of what's going on. Our abilities are increasing very, very quickly. So, the ones that want to lower the human population, they live inside the Earth. They're actually not necessarily directly communicating with the other reptilians off planet. They're kind of isolated in most cases. But how about the Anunnaki side of thing and the return of the Anunnaki, the day of the Lord? Yeah, I do think they are planning to come back. I think they plan on taking over the smart cities by 2035-ish. I think there's Agenda 2030 for a reason. The reason's given to the leadership here on Earth, because it's letting the humans know enough of the bigger plan that they can make sure that everything is on time when it becomes time. And I think they are looking for humans to go and repopulate Mars. Robbie had said, is there something about the Anunnaki and Uranus? Well, Uranus is tilted on its side because of a Death Star, basically a planet-size killing machine, killing ship that came through. When you see Star Wars and the Death Star and Starkiller Base, they're literally telling you our history. That is pretty close in some ways to our history. It really is, and when you saw those planets blowing up from Starkiller Base on the last 3 episodes they put out, well, that's really kind of like what happened to Tiamat. It was literally one of those Death Stars literally crashed into Tiamat, and that caused the destruction of Tiamat as we know it. And yet the Anunnaki themselves, yes, they still have it in mind, at least some of them, to come and see who will volunteer to become their slaves elsewhere. I think they know that humanity is going to ascend, so I think, again, surviving all the conflicts is something that we're trying to do at this point in time, including the war on humanity that's been covertly waged, really, by the reptilians under our feet through the use of, people like that Gill guy, who, and the Sickle Maker and that whole crew that we see there, the members of the few, that we turn that word upside down or backwards, and W period E period, you get it. Yeah, that's all reptilian, the ones under our feet, so to say. It's said that Satan, right, he's in hell right under your feet. Well, it's a whole race of beings. But then at the same time, I think the Anunnaki are going to do a second return. And, I think they're looking literally for volunteers, for those to be saved, to go off planet and perhaps repopulate Mars to be worked. Because Mars was damaged in that war as well, drastically damaged. There was a whole surface population. We could see the wreckage on Mars still, and there are some reptilians and some humans inside the surface, but it's not in very large numbers on Mars. But they are looking to repopulate Mars. They really think that's that's Elon's whole thing. He's to get people to volunteer to go and set up on Mars so they could start the process of terraforming it and repopulating it. Again, I think Elon himself is not what you think he is. And then they're also looking again for volunteers to come back to Nibiru and other planets Perhaps that will be somewhere in that 2035-ish timeline.
Yeah. Perhaps, we're walking into a new timeline, a new realm, and I think what they're going to do is they're going to ask for volunteers first. They always ask for volunteers first. I mean, that's kind of the way they do things. Even when the plague upon the land came through, they just kind of volunteered. Yeah, go ahead, go get the thing. Whoever wants to volunteer. And then they applied a little bit of pressure, and they said, well, you can't really work or do necessary things, go shopping unless you get a thing. And then they started demanding it. Then they started mandating it. So, it's that subtle thing, that harvest thing. Well, go ahead and go aboard if you want to. It's kind of that voluntary thing. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. So, interesting times. Oh, yeah. It's only going to get way more interesting, guys. This Chinese farmer dug a well, and he found, this back in 92, a whole underground city that was buried for 2,000 years underneath him. There are massive fortresses in Cappadocia, in Turkey, Derinkenyu, many other spots around the world. We just automatically assume they were used by humans to escape something going on in the surface, but some of them also could have been used by other beings that were not human.
Indeed.
Indeed. It's interesting times, so make sure you spend it with the ones that you love and adore. And so we are blessed to spend that time with you guys. I want to thank you guys. Do please leave a comment for the algorithm where you can help us fight against the algorithm suppression that exists. Let us reprogram the machines that have been programmed to watch us and to, breathe down the back of our neck all our lives. Our will could reprogram this whole reality. And that's the key. It's getting enough people to understand what's happening so we could shift that paradigm.
Indeed. And we're going to do some dings. So we want to say, wait, are we done? Yeah. Oh, okay. So we want to say a huge thank you and welcome Miss Shelley. It's great to have you on board, and a huge thank you to Running the Gauntlet. We appreciate your guys' support, all the thumbs up, anything on Ko-Fi, Patreon. It all helps us keep going, and so we can come together and do these lives. It's terrific, you guys. So here, I want to say ask for prayers for Carrie. He's our friend. He's having a really hard time. Lori and Steve. Steve needs some guidance. Lori needs healing. She's not being taken care of very well. They would much rather she be well enough to go home. So please send out prayers to them. That's a really dire situation, and it's so sad. Here we go. Here's some dings. You guys are amazing and wonderful. Source bless and namaste.
Loka samasta sukhi no bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free. May my thoughts, words, acts, and deeds contribute to that happiness and that freedom. As always, guys, so much love and gratitude. Namaste.